distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this event co-organized by the Permanent Mission of China to ESCAP and the International Poverty Reduction Center in China, shortened as IPRCC. And our event will be focusing on linking the achievements of SDG1 and SDG2 to build back better poverty alleviation through sustainable rural development, agricultural development, and rural revitalization. This topic comes at a timely moment since this year, China announced a complete success of our campaign to eradicate absolute poverty, and the UN Secretary General is convening a food systems summit to which this event will contribute through a summary feedback. My name is Li Xin. I'm Deputy Director General of IPRCC. I will moderate the first session of our discussions today. As we will begin the session shortly, please ensure your microphone is muted. Kindly note that a simultaneous interpretation from Chinese to English is available. You can select your preferred language using the button at the bottom of your screen. We have collected in our registration form any questions for your panel. Unfortunately, due to the time constraint, we cannot have a Q&A session live. However, we will work with the speakers after the event to include answers to your questions in the event's feedback to the Food Systems Summit, which will be made publicly available. Please note that questions and comments can be shared also during the event using the chat box. Now, since we are all ready, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin our event. And it's my honor to introduce our first distinguished speaker, His Excellency Mr. Hong Tianyun, the Vice Administrator of China National Rural Revitalization Administration. Mr. Hong, please.
尊敬的阿里沙赫巴拉副秘书长、长启德协调员、女士们、先生们、朋友们，消除贫困是联合国2030年可持续发展议程的首要目标。然而，受新冠肺炎疫情影响，2020年全世界有7100多万人陷入极端贫困，是数十年来贫困人口首次增加。面对这种形势，本次边会聚焦通过乡村振兴和农业可持续发展消除贫困主题，探讨消除贫困、实现可持续发展的理念和方法，具有十分重要的现实意义。在此我谨代表中国国家乡村振兴局对边会的召开表示祝贺，期待大家贡献宝贵智慧。朋友们，中国是2030年议程的积极落实者，始终以本国的实际行动为世界做出贡献。特别是2012年中共18大以来，以习近平同志为核心的党中央领导中国消除了绝对贫困，部署全面实施乡村振兴战略。我们落实精准扶贫、精准脱贫基本方略，实施扶贫对象、项目安排、资金使用、措施到付、因村派人、脱贫成效6个精准，实行发展生产、异地扶贫搬迁、生态补赏、发展教育、 社会保障兜底5国一批，到2020年如期实现中国国家现行标准下9899万农村贫困人口全部脱贫，832个贫困县全部摘帽，12.8万个贫困村全部出列，区域性的整体贫困得到解决。在全球解贫进程逆转的形势下，中国提前10年实现2030年议程解贫目标，为全球贫困治理贡献了中国实践、中国动轮。我们明确促进乡村全面振兴的目标方向，坚持用发展的办法巩固拓展脱贫成果，树立农业农村优先发展的总方针，强化以工补农、以城代乡，加快农业农村现代化。按照产业兴旺、生态宜居、乡风文明、治理有效、生活富裕的总要求，针对农业农村农民实际问题，加强顶层设计和政策供给，强化工作落实和效果评估，动员全社会关注三农，积极参与，合力推动乡村产业振兴、人才振兴、文化振兴、生态振兴、组织振兴，使脱贫地区、脱贫人口在振兴中实现可持续发展。我们践行共建人类命运共同体的理念，在斐济等国援建菌草种植示范项目，带动农户增收致富；在老挝、柬埔寨、缅甸3国6个贫困村实施东亚解贫示范合作技术援助项目，帮助当地创新脱贫思路，积极开展对外援助培训，覆盖136个国家和组织，受益学员超过4200人次。在埃塞俄比亚、苏丹开展微笑儿童学校供餐项目，在缅甸开展包拨大学生助学金项目，帮助受援国通过教育扶贫，阻断贫困代际传递。女士们、先生们、朋友们，前不久习近平主席在博鳌亚洲论坛2021年年会上提出，把“一带一路”建成解贫之路、增长之路。面向未来，我们愿同各方一道，携手共克时艰，在共商共建共享的道路上继续并肩前行，为解决全球贫困问题、实现农业可持续发展做出更多贡献。祝本次编会圆满成功，谢谢大家。
Thank you, Excellency, for opening this event. Now it's my honor to invite our next speaker, Yang Mulia Ibu Alameda Saucia Alisabana, United Nations Under Secretary General and Executive Secretary of ESCAP. Yang Mulia Ibu.
Thank you very much, Ms. Li Xin. His Excellency, Mr. Hong Tianyun, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to start by expressing my appreciation to the permanent mission of China to ESCAP for organizing the side event along with the International Poverty Reduction Center of China, with the support of ESCAP, Center for Sustainable Agriculture Mechanization, or CSAM. Today's event comes at a very significant time when COVID-19 pandemic has severely impacted and in some aspects indeed reversed the region's progress towards the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in relation to poverty reduction. ESCAP estimates show that 89 million more people in the region have been pushed back by the pandemic into extreme income poverty. The pandemic is also complicating the key aspects of food production and distribution, along with global and regional supply chain. As highlighted in the United Nations framework for the immediate socioeconomic response to COVID-19, small farmers, fishers, pastoralists, rural workers, as well as all those working in food production and supply chain, such as migrant agriculture workers, food vendors, subsistence farmers, etc., are among the population most at risk to experience socioeconomic marginalization. However, this year has also brought some good news. For instance, 2 months ago, China announced it had lifted out of extreme poverty nearly 100 million rural citizens in the past 8 years. We can note that altogether, China lifted nearly 800 million people out of poverty over the past 4 decades. China's experiences can provide valuable lessons to other developing countries, especially as its poverty alleviation target was achieved amid unprecedented measures in place to successfully contain the pandemic. While congratulating China's outstanding accomplishment in lifting people out of poverty as an important contribution to the 2030 Agenda, we can note the importance to seize the opportunities of innovation, green economy, and openness to improve people's living and to continue towards more achievements to meet the pledge of leaving no one behind. Targeted poverty reduction strategies are indeed the way to reach those farthest behind and achieve the ambitious targets set out in the 2030 Agenda. Several countries in the Asia-Pacific region also developed success stories in the fight against poverty. Notable examples are not only limited to member states' domestic policies, but stem from the promotion of international cooperation on poverty reduction. Today's exchange of lessons learned and new perspectives will not only benefit countries from the region in their struggle to get rid of poverty, but can also contribute to their food security goals and help determine a pathway towards more sustainable and resilient food systems at the global level. In fact, we need to promote regional cooperation for sustainable agricultural development and rural revitalization as a means to alleviate poverty, considering that people suffering from extreme poverty in Asia Pacific predominantly live in rural areas and are engaged in agricultural activities. The modernization and improvement of the agricultural sector and of food systems at large are fundamental for building back better and maintaining poverty eradication gains. Consolidating poverty alleviation achievement and rural revitalization presents to us the way to prevent any scenarios where people slip back into poverty when facing shocks or crises. Dear colleagues and distinguished delegates, ESCAP is engaged in supporting poverty reduction measures through the modernization of the agriculture sector with the work of its regional institution, the Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, or CSAM. I wish to thank the government of China for hosting CSAM and for renewing their commitment to generously fund its program and operation for the next 5 years. I am grateful to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Affairs of China for the strong support it has extended throughout the years to CSAM as its window ministry. I'm sure it will continue to engage in valuable regional cooperation and knowledge sharing activities through CSAM. We look forward to the involvement and contribution of all member states in the work of CSAM so that the pool of knowledge in the region can have a wider impact in our path towards achieving SDG1 and SDG2. This year, the Secretary General has convened a food system summit to discuss new pathways to secure the improvement of food systems worldwide. I'm confident that the discussion at this event will be of great significance for the global debate that will take place at the summit later this year. And ESCAP will support conveying your recommendation to the summit secretariat. ESCAP stands ready to provide assistance to countries that seek to achieve their poverty reduction goals and improve their food systems through agricultural modernization. I wish you a very fruitful deliberation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your inspiring remarks. Now, it's my honor to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Ke Yousheng, Permanent Representative of China to ESCAP. Mr. Ke, the floor is yours.
能听见吗？
能听见。
Okay, 谢谢. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Your Excellency, Mr. Hong Tianyun, Deputy Head of the National Administration for Rural Revitalization. Your Excellency, Madam Amita Alice Jabana, Executive Secretary of UN ESCAP. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Permanent Mission of China to ESCAP is very pleased to co-host this side event on poverty reduction with the International Poverty Reduction Center in China. I would like to thank the Center for Sustainable Agriculture Mechanization, CSAM, for supporting this event. And thank you, distinguished guests, for your participation. This event will offer a platform to share best practices in poverty reduction in the Asia Pacific and promote cooperation on rural revitalization, facilitate progress towards sustainable development goals. Ladies and gentlemen, 2020 was a year of significance to the 100-years-old Communist Party of China, the Chinese government, and the Chinese people. We accomplished the historic task of eliminating absolute poverty and met the poverty reduction target set out in the 2030 Agenda 10 years ahead of schedule. This is a miracle in China's 5,000 years history. It is also a great accomplishment in human history. It's not an easy task for a developing country with a large population of 1.4 billion people. It's underpinned by the strong leadership and the people-centered mission of the Communist Party of China, the coordinated planning and the targeted approach by the Chinese government, the collaboration of all sectors, and the hard working and the dedication of the Chinese people. All these efforts are well recorded in the white paper, Poverty Alleviation, China's Experience and Contribution, published by China's State Council Information Service on April 6. Special thanks go to thousands of Communist Party members, government officials at all levels, experts and scholars, civil society, entrepreneurs, and volunteers who dedicated their efforts or even lives to the poverty eradication cause with the spirit of great passion, diligence, and perseverance. Ladies and gentlemen, while committed to eradication its own poverty, China takes up its responsibilities as a major global player and has actively participated in international cooperation on poverty reduction. China has been a strong supporter of South-South cooperation. We have offered over 400 billion Chinese yuan of foreign aid under the South-South cooperation framework, set up South-South Cooperation Assistance Fund with a financial support of $3 billion, and will provide $50 million to the China FAO South-South Cooperation Trust Funds Phase 3. As a permanent member of the UN Security Council and the second largest contributor to the UN regular budget, China promotes multilateral cooperation in the spirit of multilateralism and support UN bodies to play active roles in poverty reduction, including the support to ESCAP. In this regard, Xiang is a good example. Globally, China has been helping developing countries build bridges, roads, and water conservancy infrastructures, promote agricultural development, and create jobs, thus contributing to the poverty reduction of the local people. Poverty reduction is also a key goal of the high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. According to a World Bank study, the initiative will help 7.6 million people out of extreme poverty and 32 million people out of moderate poverty. In the spirit of unity and solidarity, China promotes the fair and equitable distribution of vaccines and is working on providing vaccines to 80 developing countries and a number of international organizations exporting vaccines to more than 40 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, human society may not be able to fully prevent pandemics and natural disasters, but we can fight them in unity and solidarity. To tide up crises, we should forge strong partnership to step up multilateral cooperation, strengthen efforts on poverty eradication, advance rural vitalization, promote sustainable development for a stable and prosperous community of shared future for Asia Pacific. I thank you all.
谢谢柯代表。Now, let's thank our distinguished speakers for their opening remarks. And let's move on to our next distinguished speakers who will bring their perspectives on international cooperation. It's my honor to introduce our next speaker, His Excellency Mr. Siddharth Chatterjee, who was appointed as UN Resident Coordinator in China early this year. And he has served on the same role in Kenya before that. Your Excellency, Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much, Li Xin. It's truly an honor to join His Excellency Mr. Hong Tianyun, the Vice Administrator of the China National Rural Revitalization Administration. My greetings to Ambassador K.O. Xiang, greetings Under-Secretary General Armida Alizja Bana, and of course, the Pakistani Ambassador to Thailand, Ambassador Asim Ahmed. First, let me thank the permanent mission of China to ESCAP, together with the International Poverty Reduction Center in China, for organizing this event at ESCAP Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, CSAM, for facilitating it. I note that ESCAP CSAM supported the Resident Coordinator's Office in China last year in convening a dialogue on strengthening food systems amid the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, where the connections between China's poverty alleviation achievements and building back better food systems was pretty evident. The participation of 9 UN entities, CSAM, FAO, IFAD, UNDP, UN Environment, UNESCO, UNICEF, UN Women, and the World Food Programme and their partners in the event speaks to the role the UN can play in these efforts, thanks to the work of its specialized agencies, but above all, the importance that the UN Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, has placed on a reformed UN, on a United Nations which is fit for purpose, on a United Nations that delivers as one, and on a United Nations that works in lockstep with the vision of its member states to make sure that we leave no one behind. I want to take this opportunity to truly commend, congratulate, and compliment China's achievements in poverty reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I have arrived in this country on the 16th of January, and every day is a voyage of discovery of the ability of a country of the size of $1.4 billion, which has moved with such speed and effectiveness in not only lifting 800 million people out of poverty over the last 4 decades, but its stellar achievement over the last 7 years of lifting close to 90 million people out of abject poverty. And this has not been obtained through handouts, but by providing the poorest with innovative means to improve their productivity and livelihoods. And this was largely done by improving food systems, revitalizing rural areas. Sustainable and innovative agricultural development will be key for maintaining these achievements as the world recovers from the pandemic, which is causing millions all over the world to slip back into poverty. I appreciate this event because this brings China's experience to the regional level on an intergovernmental platform where sharing of knowledge and best practices among member states can have significant impact on the achievement of the SDGs, particularly when it comes to food security and fighting poverty with a multidimensional and multi-stakeholder approach. I note that this regional cooperation and commitment to multilateralism will benefit countries way beyond the Asia Pacific, as agricultural development will be the key for poverty reduction in places like Africa, a continent which I've served for many years of my career in. Ladies and gentlemen, a partnership with China, the UN system, Asia can transform Africa with the lessons that we can learn here in China. Africa's population by 2050 will be about 2.5 billion. The median age of that continent is at about 18 years of age. The rural revitalization that has taken place in China, and which is where the UN country team intends to walk in lockstep with the government of China to make sure that these lessons get shared throughout Africa, because as we start to look at the race to achieve the sustainable development goals, ensuring the achievement of SDG1 and SDG2 will have a multiplier effect across the rest of the sustainable development goals. I look forward to the upcoming summit, the Food Systems Summit, where China's successful development story and cooperation with the UN system and the deliberations for building back more robust and resilient food systems while lifting out of poverty the vulnerable segments of the agricultural force will be absolutely critical. It is finally for me a true honor to come and serve in a country which is showing the way that a development paradigm which not only lifts people out of poverty, but the multidimensional nature that poverty brings with it has been overcome. And here is where I intend to share the best practices and the story of China with the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Now, I am very pleased to invite His Excellency Mr. Asif Iftikhar Ahmed, Ambassador of Pakistan to Thailand and a permanent representative of Pakistan to ESCAP. Now, Ambassador, please.
Thank you very much. Distinguished speakers, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome the opportunity to participate in this meeting. The world today is grappling with worst health, social, and economic consequences of the COVID-19 crisis as it continues to unfold. Impact has been particularly severe on the global poverty and hunger situation. And the Asia Pacific must be particularly worried since over 50 million people in the region are estimated to be at risk of falling back into extreme poverty. We also know that the incidence of extreme poverty is highest in rural areas, where resilience is mostly on agriculture, and it is also where half of Asia Pacific's population still lives. Therefore, the focus on SDG1, no poverty, and SDG2, zero hunger, is very pertinent here. The good news is that although Asia Pacific region has been lagging behind on many SDG targets, its achievement on poverty alleviation has been quite encouraging. It is therefore logical that in building back better and faster, we would need to specifically leverage interlinked progress on SDGs 1 and 2. While a big challenge, it comes with significant prospects. For example, it can provide pathways for developing agriculture on more modern, efficient, and sustainable lines, and rejuvenating rural economies to help uplift standards of living and boost socio-economic development. It is also an opportunity to enhance food security through effective food systems, as we would also learn during this discussion today. Ladies and gentlemen, poverty is a global challenge. it is also multidimensional. Its alleviation requires integrated efforts at national, regional, and international levels. As also noted in recent reports by ESCAP, regional cooperation is the key to economic revival and building back better. We must strengthen regional development cooperation to combat poverty and strengthen social protection. We can learn from various successful strategies and good practices. China is a prime example, having lifted hundreds of millions of people from poverty in recent decades, besides boosting development partnerships in the region and beyond. In view of the predicted K-shaped recovery, a responsive regional approach is all the more crucial to tackle disparities and to ensure that no one is left behind. Regional cooperation, in my view, can catalyze concrete actions towards poverty reduction strategies. This includes channeling of adequate resources to education, health, and infrastructure development, as well as more investment in innovation and digitalization. Apart from mechanization and modern agricultural techniques, the immense potential of digital technologies and the whole range of activities related to agriculture needs to be fully utilized. Cooperation is also needed to ensure adequate and fair prices for agricultural and food products, and to prevent market manipulations and distortions, including those caused by subsidies that more often disadvantage farmers in the developing countries. We must rethink our patterns of food production and consumption on sustainable lines. Prime Minister Imran Khan has proposed the adoption of a new strategy in that regard at the forthcoming Food System Summit. Last but not least, we should work together to liberalize trade regimes and enhance regional connectivity to promote free and fair trade and boost development across regions. Such are the win-win outcomes we can achieve through regional cooperation and integration. Pakistan accords highest priority to SDGs 1 and 2. Agriculture constitutes the largest sector of our economy, contributing about 1/4 to the GDP. Majority of the population lives in rural areas and is directly or indirectly dependent on the agriculture sector. Agricultural development and rural revitalization are the focus of various governmental policies and reforms, supported by significantly increased budgetary allocations in recent years. In the wake of COVID-19, the government's relief package, including emergency cash assistance to the poorest and vulnerable groups, was the largest in Pakistan's history. We have also prioritized agricultural development and modernization under the new phase of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a leading example, ladies and gentlemen, of regional cooperation and connectivity under the Belt and Road Initiative. Excellencies, in order to achieve success, the national efforts of developing countries to build back sustainably must be complemented by regional and international cooperation. This is a partnership that we should be able to bolster in coming years through relevant international agencies and multilateral fora. I thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our opening session. We have heard some very inspiring messages, and now it's time to hear the perspectives of the stakeholders who are implementing these visions on the ground. For the next session of our event, I'm pleased to hand over the moderator's role to Ms. Li Yutong, Head of ESCAP's Center for Sustainable Agricultural Mechanization, or CSAM. Madam Li, the floor is yours.
Thank you, DDG, Li Xin, and a very good morning to all. In this second part of the event, we have an impressive lineup of stakeholders who I believe will bring diverse perspectives to our topic. We will link policy formulation with international cooperation, understand how farmers can be better engaged and what technologies can meet their needs and empower them. So give time constraints, I will introduce you as well. I give you the floor one at a time. Please also keep your interventions within 5 minutes. Timekeeping will be of very important because ESCAP commission session will resume sharply and will not allow us to go over time. So our first speaker is Zhong Bing-Yin, professor at the Department of Agriculture and Resource Economics, Seoul National University. So Professor Yin, we heard during the opening remarks about the region's wealth of knowledge and experiences in poverty alleviation through agriculture development. The Republic of Korea is one of the first success stories beginning in the 60s. So can you tell us more about the policies that were set for alleviating rural poverty in the early process of economic development from the 60s to 80s? So Professor Yin, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jung Bin-Im, Professor of Agriculture Economics in Seoul National University. First of all, it is my great pleasure to introduce Korean experience on rural poverty reduction and rural development during the economic process, focusing on the 1960 to 1980. As you may know, many Koreans suffer from chronic food shortage and severe poverty until the mid-1960s. For example, absolute poverty rate, it means that the share of a household whose income is below the minimum living cost, at that time, it reached more than 30%. So rural poverty was one of the most important issues to be solved during the 1960s to 1970s in Korea. At that time, we believe that the key solution to overcome the rural poverty was to increase agricultural productivity and farm household income in rural areas. In this regard, the Korea government tried to strengthening the basic factors for increasing agricultural productivity and farm household incomes in terms of agricultural production basis and improving physical infrastructure in rural area and the agriculture organization and institution system. This three period is focusing on to increasing agriculture productivity and farm household income. I would like to divide into 1960, 1970, and the 1980s for agricultural policy to reduce rural poverty. During the 1960s, the main goal of agriculture policy in Korea was to resolve food shortage and to terminate rural hunger and poverty. To achieve this policy goal, the policy direction is in creation of owner farming through land reform. Farm land reform in Korea was implemented to create independent family farming. The second policy direction is in establishment of agricultural administration system. This is a backbone of agricultural production and rural development. Firstly, Korea government is encouraged to establish the agricultural cooperatives. Agricultural national cooperatives established in 1961 and the Rural Development Administration. This is a government agency for agricultural R&D and the extension service to farmers. This is a very important role in Korean agriculture sector still. And the Korea Rural Community Corporation is for rural development. These two government agencies established in 1962. And the basic agriculture law is enacted in 1967, is to conduct the systematic agriculture policy and rural development. So during the 1960s, Korea government is focusing on the basic production basis, a strong agriculture production basis and legal system and administrative system during the 1960s. And during the 1970s, the main policy goal in Korea was to increase agriculture productivity with modernizing the agricultural production system and to improve living conditions in rural areas. To achieve this policy goal, the policy direction is in first, increase of agriculture productivity through green revolutions. As you know, the green revolution is agriculture. Is to increase the agriculture productivity through expansion of agriculture R&D investment and the development of high yield variety and the improvement of irrigation system and agricultural mechanization was pursued during this time. Also, Korea government is strongly support for rice and barley price. As you may know, rice and barley is a main food stock in Korea. So government intervene in rice and barley market to support the price for rice and barley. It is two objectives. One is to increasing the farmers' income for rice farming and barley farming. And the second one is to increasing in the incentive for basic foodstuff productivity. And the third policy direction is in New Town movement called Semaul-Undong. Probably you know that. It is launched in 1970. At that time, the government provide financial and material support to farmers and village for improving the rural living condition. And during the 1980s, the main goal of the agriculture policy in Korea was to increase farm household income to reduce the enlarged income gap. During the 1980s, the income gap between urban and farm household is enlarged. So government want to reduce the income gap. So to achieve this policy goal, government policy direction is in promotion of cash crop production, such as livestock, fruit, and vegetables. And the second policy direction is in creation of open farm income source through making the rural industrial complex. So currently, at that time, before the 1980s, most of farm household income comes from agriculture income. But agriculture income is basically fluctuated and relatively lower than other open farming income. So Korea government want to increasing farm household income through the creation of open farm income source. As a result, during the 1980s, the production of livestock, fruit, and vegetable began to increase, and the industrial complex in rural area began to appear. So the open farming income is increasing in Korean farmhouse whole. So next, I would like to introduce the outcome and success factors of Korean case. First outcome is, as a result, the agriculture productivity in Korea is increasing. For example, the rice productivity is below the 300 kilogram for 10 hours before the 1970, but 1980 is more than 450 kilograms, is highly increases. And farm income also is continuously increased. For example, in 1970, farm household income was only $249 US, but 1980, more than 2,500 US is 10 times higher than. So it is a very good achievement in farm incomes. And farm household income source also has been diversified. So as I mentioned before, agriculture income, farm household income is diversified. Agriculture income, open farming income, and the transfer income from government. So the farm household income is increasing and stabilized through the off-farming income source. And the commercialization of agriculture production has much progresses during the 1980s. So farmers earn much more money from the farming activity. For example, rice and barley or some livestock, something like that. And the living condition in rural area has greatly improved. For example, rural electrification, electricity supply in rural area was successfully accomplished through the rural electrification project during the 1960s to 1970s. So, for example, rural electrification rate is increasing from.
Mr. Ing, would you kindly wrap up your statement due to the time constraint? Thank you.
Really? Okay. Finally, I would like to introduce some success factor why Korea rural poverty reduction policy is successful. First one is in rational leaders' strong will. At that time, the President Park Chung-hee was a very strong will and support for rural development. The second one is a legal foundation for implementation various policy based on national consensus. And the third one is a proper role sharing among central local government and relevant public agency. Finally, this is a very lucky case for Korea. At that time, the Korea economy is continuous, very fastly increase. So Korea government have enough financial resource to investment in agriculture and rural area. That is another success factor. But first of all, the important thing is rational leaders, strong will, and the support for agriculture and the rural areas with public consensus. That is a most important success factor. As a result, the Korea has been evaluated as a successful models in rural development and poverty reduction. Okay, thank you so much for your listening.
Thank you, Professor Ing, for sharing this historical perspective of ROK. Now, I would like to turn to our next speaker, Tan Weiping, Deputy Director General, International Poverty Reduction Center in China, IPRCC. So, Dr. Tan, China has also set several successful policies domestically and has used its experiences in international cooperation for poverty reduction. Can you tell us more about what IPRCC has done in the Asia Pacific region in this regard? So Dr. Tan, you have the floor for 5 minutes.
Okay, please. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very glad to attend this side event. To answer your question, I'm now here to brief you on China's poverty reduction cooperation in the Asia Pacific region. In opening ceremony, Vice Administrator Hong Tianyun has introduced China's achievements of poverty reduction. As you know, while advancing poverty alleviation in its home, China has also actively contributed to the global poverty reduction. It's a global conference on poverty reduction held in Shanghai in 2004. The Chinese government committed to the world that we would strive to promote the South-South cooperation and gradually step up assistance for impoverished countries to the best of our capacity. As an important achievement of the conference, IPRCC was jointly established by the Chinese government and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, in May 2005. Since the establishment, IPRCC has actively participated in the global poverty reduction for the Asia Pacific region, particularly the East Asia region, and launched the fruitful campaigns in many fields. First of all, IPRCC has held the ASEAN-China Forum on Social Development and Poverty Reduction for 13 consecutive years since 2007. It has become a crucial annual forum for strengthening strategic partnership between China and ASEAN in poverty alleviation and development, as well as an important platform for building consensus, sharing experience, and developing cooperation. Furthermore, it has played a positive role in advancing the cause of regional poverty reduction. We plan to hold the 14th ASEAN-China Forum on Social Development and Poverty Reduction together with the ASEAN Secretariat in June this year to further strengthen experience exchanges and promote pragmatic cooperation between China and the ASEAN countries. We are looking forward to your participation in this event. Secondly, IPRCC has held the ASEAN +3 Village Leaders Exchange Program for 8 times since 2013. The program was included in the initiative proposed by Premier Li Keqiang of China. It's the ASEAN +3 Summit and served as one of the achievements of this visit in October 2013. As an implementer, IPRCC has paid high attention to the program and made proactive and careful moves to ensure its smooth progress, which has greatly boosted the capacity building of village leaders in China and ASEAN countries. Thirdly, IPRCC has designed and organized the Technical Assistance Project for Poverty Alleviation demonstration in East Asia as a concrete move to implement the pilot project of poverty reduction cooperation in East Asia proposed by Premier Li Keqiang. It's the 17th ASEAN +3 Summit in 2014. The 3-year pilot project was carried out in 6 villages of Cambodia, Laos, and Myanmar, with 2 in each country. Through concerted efforts, the pilot villages has witnessed great improvements in production and living conditions. And the project's demonstration effects have gradually shown. It has thus been highly
Dr. Tan,
praised
you have 1 minute left. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Relevant development of both sides, as well as the measures in pilot villages in November 2020, Premier Li Keqiang announced that China would implement the second phase projects and the East Asia Cooperation Initiative on Poverty Reduction. Right now, we are consulting with the relevant departments of China. So, dear friends, getting free from hunger, ending the poverty, eliminate and achieving common prosperity are common goals and missions of mankind and East Asia countries. For many years, East Asia countries have kept abreast with economic globalization by adjusting their economic structure, opening up further to the outside world, and promoting regional cooperation. Consequently, remarkable achievements have been made in economic and social development, and poverty alleviation efforts have scored huge progress as an important platform for poverty reduction exchanges and cooperation. IPRCC will continue to join hands with our partners in the Asia-Pacific region to contribute to regional and global poverty alleviation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Tan, for sharing your very facilitating working aspects. So I would like to turn to our next speaker. Next speaker is Esther Panunia, Secretary General, Asia Farmers Association for Sustainable Rural Development, and who is also member of Advisory Committee for the 2021 Food System Summit. So, Ms. Panunia, we have so far heard about policies and government interventions, but it's crucial to hear the perspectives of the beneficiaries of these policies. So what can be done to better empower organizations of women, men, and young family farmers at the local and the regional level? So Panunia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Li Tung, for the question, and good afternoon to everyone. Pleased to be here with all of you today, and thank you for the invitation. Happy to hear the sharing of Professor Jongbin Im and Tan Wei-ping. Korea is indeed an inspiring success story of wiping out massive hunger and poverty in a country in just one generation. As this segment is about food system, let me share with you our members' perspective on the food system. First, we see our food system as a broken system. It is a system where food is produced faster than global population growth, yet there is poverty, hunger, and malnutrition, biodiversity loss, soil and ecosystem degradation, air, water, and sound pollution, and where the youth is unattracted to agriculture, and where small-scale producers, men and women, family farmers have weak control of the food system. This broken food system has been dramatically exposed during the COVID-19 pandemic, leaving family farmers as food heroes, yet victimized by weak access to markets and low prices of their produce. So we need to shift to a food system that achieves multiple wins. One that not only raises productivity and incomes, but also protects the environment, increases soil health, biodiversity, resiliency, and adaptation while mitigating climate change, strengthens health and immunity to diseases, provides access and makes available and affordable health and nutritious food while reducing food waste and eliminating hunger and poverty, and that links the rural and urban populations, the farmers and the consumers in a web of life that is interconnected and interdependent. Is this possible? Like what Korea did? Yes, with a mixture of right policies, sufficient budget, effective leadership and governance, and empowered citizenry, including family farmers. What kind of policies? In our consultations, these are policies that secure access and control of family farmers over production resources, mainly lands, waters, forests, and seeds, that incentivize family farmers to shift to sustainable agroecological approaches to farming, fishing, and forestry, to organize into cooperatives, providing full value chain services to our members, and to attract the youth to go into agriculture and further do innovation. It's a food system that promotes equal rights and equitable opportunities for women farmers, and that invests in family farming organizations and cooperatives as partners in development work. As you may know, the years 2019 to 2028 is the UN Decade for Family Farming, or UNDFF, which has developed a global action plan aimed to accelerate actions undertaken in a collective, coherent, and comprehensive manner to support family farmers. It has 7 pillars of action. The first one is to develop an enabling policy environment to strengthen policy on family farming based on inclusive and effective governance processes. Pillars 2 and 3 are on youth and women farmers, and Pillar 4 is on strengthening family farmers organizations. For the Food System Summit, we are asking government to facilitate the empowerment of family farmers by developing and implementing national plans for the UNDFF through a multi-stakeholder process that recognizes and targets small-scale family farmers and their groups and organizations not only as beneficiaries of these policies, but as equal partners in crafting and implementing policies and programs. Because Participatory policy-making processes increases the policy's appropriateness and relevance, stakeholdership, ownership and responsibility, deepening trust and partnership among stakeholders, government, and farmers involved. A key step to the empowerment process is investing and directly financing family farmers' organizations to support their choices on capacity building, policy engagement, and delivery of services to their members, and enabling them to have effective internal governance and management, like our experience with development partners IFAD, FAO, and GAPSP. In conclusion, empowering family farmers means recognizing and making true to the belief that family farmers should be at the heart and at the center of sustainable and empowering food system processes, and the family farming organizations and cooperatives should be a key driver and a key force in the process. 谢谢. Thank you for your attention, and back to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Polonia, for your valuable insights. Now, I'm very pleased to introduce our next speaker, Mr. Xiang Huami, Vice President of Alibaba Group. So, Mrs. Xiang, it is important yet very challenging to tap into new technologies to address Euro poverty reduction. So you have been very much involved in innovating food supply chains and providing solutions to farmers for Euro poverty reduction and improve the food systems. So can you please tell us some of the main achievements? So Ms. Xiang, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to have this opportunity to share Alibaba's practice of digital technology, helping poverty alleviation, agriculture, and the rural area. I'm now doing a field research on rural revitalization in Ganzhou, Jiangxi province. In this morning, I visited Huaide agricultural vegetable base and Tantou village in Yudu County to learn about rural planting and tourist industry. It's very rewarding. On February 25th this year, Alibaba was awarded the National Advanced Collective for Poverty Alleviation by CPC Central Committee and the State Council, which is the central government's affirmation of Alibaba's participation in the battle against poverty. And we are so proud of it. During this period, many media reported the 1 trillion of Alibaba's poverty alleviation. That is, in the past 8 years, the sales of agricultural products on Ali's platform exceeded 1 trillion yuan, and the transaction of 5,425 top villages in China exceeded 1 trillion yuan in 2020. After reaching the 2 trillion yuan, Ali's efforts to revitalize the countryside have just begun. We hope to rely on the digital technology capabilities developed and precipitated by the internet in the past 20 years to focus on 3 things. The first is to build a digital agriculture base. The second is to create a digital rural sample. The second is to help the construction of digital rural areas so that digital dividends benefits the vast number of farmers. In the building of digital agriculture base, the newly established Ali Digital Agriculture Department is establishing platform of production, supply, and marketing from aggregate consumption power to aggregate supply chain, digitally upgrading the whole link of agricultural industry. In promoting the development of digital countryside, Ali improves the administrative efficiency of county through urban brain and government news. Realize that the common people run at most once and enable the common people to enjoy public service such as payment and registration without leaving home. In the construction of digital countryside, Cainiao Village United Express Company, which is belong to Alibaba, using digital and intelligent technology, has opened 3-level express logistics distribution channels at county, township, and village, serving 30,000 villages nationwide, and will build 1,000 agricultural products upstream expressway in the coming year. We can see that digitization change farmers, farmers change villages, and villages change China. The development path of digital countryside in China has changed the traditional mode of production and helped to overcome poverty and alleviation, government guidance, platform empowerment, and grassroots entrepreneurship are combined to make commercial innovative move towards social innovative. Infiltrate into agricultural production, farmers' lives, rural governance, and other aspects, and then promote the revitalization of the countryside. In the future, under the guidance of the National Bureau of Rural Revitalization and with the help of the international organization.
Mrs. Xiang, you have 1 minute left.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Alibaba is willing to work with all partners to use the innovative genes of the internet to help to achieve strong agriculture, rural beauty, and rich farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Xiang, for your sharing these fascinating good opportunities. So now I'd like to invite our next speaker, the final one, Mrs. Darius Kiripoyas, Inspector General, Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative of Thailand, also the President of the Thai Society of Agriculture Engineering. So Ms. Darius, apart from supply chains, innovation, and e-commerce, there are also other important means for modernizing agriculture. So can you please tell us about the role of agricultural mechanization in improving livelihoods in rural areas, especially in building back from the pandemic? So Ms. Darius, you have 5 minutes. You have the floor, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lee. About building back better from pandemic related to agricultural mechanization, I can say that Thailand has developed agriculture as the main career. We have about 30% of people in the agriculture sector. We are also one of the top ranking countries in agricultural product exports. In pandemic situation, we still have no problem in food. In fact, we export even more. Regards to agricultural mechanization, we have our own local machinery. Almost all our farmers has their own machines. Main machineries are for producing rice. Rice is our staple food. The small machineries are emphasized to serve a small-scale farmer for decades. Surely that we have impact from the pandemic. One of the COVID-19 pandemic impacts in Thailand is the workforce. With so many people losing job and goes back to their home region in the provinces, Many went back to the agricultural sector, but they do not have the skill necessary to work on their farm. This urged them to improve the technology such as IoT in managing communication, e-commerce, and use of agricultural machinery, including drone and irrigation system for labor-intensive jobs. So this result in more demand for agricultural mechanization. Together with the fact that Thai farmers are in the process of switching from one generation to the next, to a generation which value and are more enthusiastic about technology and use of machinery. Climate change is also a reason of change on behavior of farmers. With the rain and weather does not come in their season any longer. Rainfall fluctuates much more than in the past. Due to Thai agriculture heavily relying on rainfall to do agriculture, the farmers would have less time for activities such as soil preparation, fertilizer, application, harvesting, logistics, and so on. So then they need machinery to be able to complete these activities on time. The main point is that the COVID-19 pandemic plays a role in accelerating the change in the agricultural industry to adapt to new technology and agricultural mechanization, in which the same technology and agricultural mechanization will play a role in building back better from the pandemic. After a time, there will be a need to increase the level of this technology and agricultural mechanization in order to catch up with demand for the quality and quantity of the consumer. I believe that many countries in the world are about the same in regards to the condition, and believe if we strengthen in giving the right resources to our farmers, we will
Madam Darius, so time is up.
We will eradicate of poverty over the world. These are my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darius. Actually, your work is really have a close relationship with our ESCAP CSAM, and believe we can work together to improve the food security of the region while contributing to the poverty reduction. Thank you so much. So, thank you. So it's I would like to thank again for all our speakers for sharing your insights and thoughts. So it's I try to summarize quickly some takeaway messages. One is improve agricultural policies, is particularly to increase productivities and the livelihoods of farmers and those working in food systems. Second is establish farmers cooperatives to empower women, to empower young people, especially for these vulnerable groups. Thirdly, to empower smallholders. This is to increase, to help them to access to financial services as well as technology to increase their profitability. Fourth is enhance digital solutions. So digital solutions enable strengthen resilience in the agriculture supply chain, both online and offline. So also lower costs for consumers, particularly for the most vulnerable group. So fifth, strengthen the international cooperation, especially South-South cooperation. Let's take this opportunity to redesign food systems to be more sustainable, resilient, and inclusive, and contribute to both food security and the poverty alleviation efforts in our region. Hence, we could build forward better. So it's indeed been very engaging discussion, even within this limited time. So I would now pleased to hand over to Mr. Ke Yusheng, permanent representative of China to ESCAP, to his closing remarks. So Mr. Ke, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Lee. Thank you very much for your summary. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as Director Lee said, in a very limited time this afternoon, we have listened to speakers from ESCAP, from the UN family, and also from different member states, and also the civil societies, which represented a very diverse stakeholder groups. And I want to thank all of you for presenting your valuable knowledge and perspective. And this summary will be integrated into a summary of the event and will be condensed to feed into the global ongoing discussion in preparation for the Food System Summit convened by the Secretary General for September this year. The valuable experience and lessons shared today will serve the regional efforts to alleviate poverty and promote sustainable agriculture, contributing to the regional response to the social economic impacts of COVID-19. And also my sincere thanks to all of you who have contributed to the discussions and make the event successful and fruitful. I also wish to thank the International Poverty Reduction Center of China for co-hosting this event. My special appreciation, of course, goes to Madam Li and also the team from CSAM for your assistance in organizing this event. Ladies and gentlemen, multilateralism is the only path to develop the common political will to achieve the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The UN is the place where we can come together and design this path towards a better future. The pandemic has taught us how fragile our achievements can be and how important unity and solidarity could be. To end poverty and defeat hunger in this decade, we will need to learn from each other's success and share our innovations and best practices and strengthen our cooperation to ensure no one is behind. Ladies and gentlemen, China will work with all partners and ESCAP and the UN families towards building back better for more prosperous Asia Pacific. I thank you. Madam Ling. Yeah, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you very much for the successful discussion and a successful, fruitful event.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye, Miss Lee.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.